What I want to talk about today are basically the two catastrophic landmines that you really need to avoid, the two things that you just absolutely cannot step on in your recruiting business. These are things that can literally take you completely out of the game. There are other constraints for sure in this thing as far as challenges that you're going to have to step through, problematic situations that you're going to have to resolve, maybe some investments that you're going to have to make at some point to strengthen your team or fortify your tech stack or whatever the case may be. Those are all things that are challenges that you definitely will have to deal with, but are not necessarily catastrophic. There are two things, though, that absolutely can be catastrophic and fairly quickly if you don't, one, know what to look out for, and two, have a systematic way to avoid them as you navigate your business. This applies, it doesn't really matter whether you are someone who is just starting out day one or week one, week three, whatever, pre-revenue, or someone that's 5 years in the game and billing at a certain revenue level and crushing it. You always need to be cognizant of it. It's something you always need to be on high alert for, and your processes and the way that you go about what you do day in and day out on both the client side and the delivery side of your business, you need to proactively be solving for this, or else it will get you. And so the two things, the first thing that I'm going to talk about is your deliverability and your ability to communicate with people on the internet. This is absolutely critical, and I don't think I'm really breaking any news to anybody by saying that, but it is absolutely critical that we have that ability in this business. The obvious thing that we need it for is for our client outreach and our ability to get new customers and acquire new business and continue to use that as the fuel to our fire and the lifeblood of our business to continue to grow our revenue. That's an obvious thing, but we also use it to communicate as a channel with candidates as well. And so super, super important. The thing about that whole thing and your domain health and your ability to inbox with people is it's a bit complicated. There's some things that you have to have in place, and there's a certain way that you have to operate and the way that you send emails out and the data that you use and this sort of thing to be able to do that the right way so that you are inboxing in the 90th percentile or higher. And one of the things that I see people get tripped up on is they think it's a little easier than it really is. And two things: one, they don't do it right. They kind of rush through it. They don't do it right. And then they come out of the gate and it turns out it's not done correctly. They have huge issues. They're not able to communicate with people. They don't get the traction that they need with clients. And they just never make it. They never get to cash flow. And if they do, it's very little and it's short-lived. The second thing that I see with getting your system, your funnel built correctly is not everybody feels comfortable with tech. And so they get intimidated by the setup process, regardless of whether you have a blueprint on how to do it or not. They get intimidated, they really slug their way through it, and oftentimes they'll just give up, right? And they just don't have the confidence in themselves or the ability or the skill set to do it, and that's okay. And so that's one thing that I see as a massive, massive issue and really a bomb that if you step on it and you don't have a way to kind of recover or avoid it, can put you out of business 100%. And then, obviously for people that are established in their business and cash flowing and at a revenue level that they like, you step on it, you're not able to inbox with people. That's going to head the other way. I've got a good friend in the elite group who experienced this. I guess about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. Literally, he was out of business. He was making about $300,000 a year. His domain took a dump, and he was not able to communicate with people on the internet. And he was literally out of business for about 4 to 5 months, like zero activity, nothing going on. Very scary moment for him, and a very challenging thing that he had to step through. But it does happen. It's not applicable only to newcomers to the industry. So that's one thing. The second thing, actually, before I move on to the second thing, the way that we have two groups in our offer, right? We have the mastermind group and the elite group. The mastermind group is for folks that are trying to reach a revenue target, either coming out pre-revenue or folks that have already revenued a little bit that are trying to reach up to 300,000. The elite group are people that are 300,000 and beyond, looking to scale to 1 million. Regardless, we remove this for you as part of our offer. With the done for you component is we will set up your tech stack to completely eliminate this as a risk for you. And then beyond that, show you how to systematically execute within that system so that you avoid this catastrophic landmine. So that's the one comment that I wanted to make there. The second landmine that you cannot, and it's probably the most challenging of the two, but the second one that you absolutely cannot step on are dealing with time wasters, specifically on the client side. You'll occasionally deal with it with candidates as well, but where this exists the most is within your relationship with clients and the new business that you bring on into your organization. And so it's plain and simple. If you are the majority of folks in this industry, and I'm assuming the majority of people on this call are likely running a contingent business, right? Their value proposition is contingent. And so there's some real advantages to doing that, but it also injects a little bit of risk into your business for obvious reasons. And so the obvious reason is that you are going to, out of the gate, be leveraging your own time, your resources, money, et cetera, without a guarantee that this is going to yield you revenue, okay? And so that's something that you really need to have your eyes wide open on. And a lot of clients know that, they're taking advantage of it. And so you get a mix of people who are very serious and in desperate need for what you're offering and the services and the value that you can deliver. There are other folks that are just using it to kind of augment or tire kick or see what's out there or whatever. And that is extremely dangerous. Especially if you're someone, and again, actually this applies to everybody, but especially if you're someone that is in startup mode, pre-revenue to, let's say, 200K or less, this can be catastrophic. Because what'll happen is likely you are a solopreneur, right? You're a solo recruiter working a full desk. Your time is your most precious resource. And if you are using that time chasing dead ends that are not going to yield you revenue, at a certain point, you're going to run out of financial runway to continue your operation. And so you need a systematic approach to be able to identify from a data standpoint, a data-driven way, to be able to assess, analyze, and quantify the validity and legitimacy of the relationship that you are building with each of your clients, okay? And so within our group, both the mastermind and elite groups, we step through this. We have something that we call a client job order scorecard, which is a data-driven way to evaluate not only new business, but existing business, and really kind of use that. There are variables that are important that drive whether, that help you make a decision on whether or not that is a good relationship or not great relationship, whether you should work on it. And maybe if you do work on it, how does it land within the priorities of other clients that you're working on, so that you're focusing your time on things that are ultimately most likely going to yield you revenue. That's the whole key to this thing. So we have that scorecard. We also talk about strategies on how to, especially in the upfront onboarding process of a new client, the client discovery call, how to get them to pull back their kimono a little bit and share with you either directly or indirectly how important what it is that you're working on for them is to them, right? That's hugely, hugely important. And so there's a whole strategy that we talk about on how to, in a strategic way, get them to disclose that to us. That way we can fill out our scorecard, but also know and have a sense and a flavor for what this partnership is really going to mean. Because at the end of the day, if the search that you're working on for your client is not a super high priority for them, it should not be for you either. And so a lot of people will run themselves out of this business by not having the ability or a system in place to assess that consistently over the long term. And so they get in a spot where they waste a bunch of time and then ultimately waste up a bunch of resources and can no longer continue. And usually we see these people going back to 9-to-5s and this sort of thing. And that sucks. We don't want that. That's not what we're about here. We're about building a robust system that is systematic, that is going to deliver consistent long-term profitability, not a lot of volatility in this sort of thing. So hope you found that valuable. That's what I wanted to share with you today. Again, we have two groups within the program, within Millionaire Recruiter. We have the mastermind group. These are for folks that are either in startup mode or in revenue levels 300,000 or less that are looking to stabilize their business and then grow beyond 300,000. We have an elite group also. This is for people that are a little bit more established, that are 300,000 or higher and looking to scale to 7 figures and beyond. Different things in both programs, but everything is built on systems around sustainability and delivering results.